The train lurched to a stop at the small depot in Saint Elmo, Colorado, and Sarah Jane Thornton pressed her gloved hand against the cool window, watching smoke from the engine drift across a landscape so different from Philadelphia that her heart clenched with equal parts fear and relief. She gathered her modest traveling bag and stepped onto the platform, her dark green dress already dusty from the journey despite her best efforts to stay presentable. The mountain air cut through her lungs, crisp and sharp in a way that made the August heat back east seem like a distant memory. It was 1882, and she had come west with nothing but the clothes she wore, $43 sewn into her corset lining, and a scandal that had destroyed everything she had known. The town of Saint Elmo sprawled before her, nestled in the Arkansas Valley with the Sawatch Range rising dramatically to the west. False-fronted buildings lined the main street, their weathered wood telling stories of harsh winters and fortune seekers who had come for silver and stayed for something else entirely. Sarah stepped carefully down from the platform, her boots touching Colorado soil for the first time. She had no plan beyond distance. The further from Pennsylvania, the better. Her former fiancé's lies had spread through Philadelphia society like wildfire, painting her as an adulteress when she had been nothing but faithful. His family's influence had ensured that no one would hire her, no one would speak for her character, and her own parents had turned their backs rather than face the shame. So she had taken what little money she had saved and bought a ticket west, changing trains until her funds grew thin, and Saint Elmo seemed as good a place as any to start over. A weathered sign across the street advertised rooms for rent above the general store. Sarah smoothed her skirts and crossed the dusty street, aware of curious eyes following her progress. In a small mining town, a well-dressed woman arriving alone would certainly draw attention. The general store smelled of coffee, leather, and something sweet she could not immediately identify. A woman behind the counter looked up from her ledger, her expression neutral but not unfriendly. "Help you, miss. I saw the sign about rooms," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I am looking for accommodation and possibly employment." The woman set down her pencil, her keen eyes taking in Sarah's quality dress and obvious exhaustion. "Name's Martha Cooper. The room's clean, $5 a week including breakfast. As for work, that depends on what you can do. I can read, write, and cipher. I have experience keeping household accounts and managing staff." Sarah hesitated, then added, "I can also sew, cook, and teach children if needed." Martha's expression softened slightly. "Running from something or someone?" Sarah's throat tightened. "Something. And I would prefer not to discuss it if that is acceptable. Acceptable enough. Most folks out here have pasts they would rather leave buried." Martha pulled a key from beneath the counter. "Room's yours if you want it. As for work, there might be something. Adam Jennings runs a ranch about 5 miles northeast of town. He came in yesterday looking for someone to help with his household. His sister was managing things, but she got married last month and moved to Denver. He needs someone who can cook, keep the books, and help with general management. Position includes room and board plus $30 a month. $30 a month was more than Sarah had dared hope for. Would he consider a woman alone for such a position? Martha smiled slightly. Adam's not one to care about convention overmuch. He cares whether someone can do the work. If you are interested, he will be in town tomorrow morning for supplies. I can introduce you." Sarah felt the first flutter of hope since leaving Philadelphia. "I would be very grateful." That night, in the small room above the general store, Sarah lay awake listening to unfamiliar sounds. The wind whistled differently here, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. She thought of her parents' comfortable home, of the life she had expected to live as Charles Henderson's wife, of the moment she had discovered his lies and his cruelty. He had been seeing another woman throughout their engagement, but when that woman's husband had discovered the affair, Charles had claimed it was Sarah who had pursued him, Sarah who had been inappropriate. Society had believed him because his family had money and influence, and Sarah had neither. She pressed her face into the thin pillow and let herself cry one last time for everything she had lost. Tomorrow, she would begin again. Morning came with brilliant sunlight streaming through her small window. Sarah washed her face in the basin, pinned her honey-colored hair into a neat bun, and put on her second dress, a practical brown cotton that would better suit a working woman. When she descended the stairs, Martha had coffee and biscuits waiting. "Adam will be here within the hour," Martha said, pouring Sarah a cup of strong black coffee. "Fair warning, he is not much for small talk, but he is honest and decent, treats his workers well, pays on time, and does not tolerate any nonsense. Lost his wife 3 years back in childbirth. Lost the baby too. Been running that ranch mostly alone since, except for his sister's help and a few hired hands." Sarah's heart contracted with sympathy. "That is terribly sad." It was. She was a good woman, Mary was. Adam took it hard. Martha glanced toward the window. "That'll be him now." Sarah followed her gaze to see a man dismounting from a large bay horse. Even from a distance, she could tell he was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin. He wore typical ranch clothing, denim trousers, a plain shirt, and a vest, with a hat that had seen better days shading his face. When he entered the store, Sarah got her first clear look at Adam Jennings. He was perhaps 30, with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar and eyes the color of Colorado sky. His face was tanned from outdoor work, with lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he smiled more often than his current serious expression indicated. There was something solid about him, something that made Sarah feel oddly safe despite being a stranger. "Morning, Martha," he said, his voice a deep baritone. Then his gaze fell on Sarah and she saw curiosity flicker across his features. "Morning, Adam. This is Sarah Thornton. She arrived yesterday and is looking for work. Thought she might suit that position you mentioned." Adam studied Sarah with frank assessment, not rudely, but with the practical consideration of a man who needed to know whether someone could do a job. "Martha says you need household management and cooking work." "Yes, sir. I have experience managing a large household, keeping accounts, cooking, and general domestic work. I can provide references, though they would need to be sent for from back east." The lie came easily because she could not bear to tell him those references would never come. "Where back east?" "Pennsylvania." She met his eyes steadily, willing him not to ask more detailed questions. Adam was quiet for a moment, and Sarah had the unsettling feeling he saw more than she wanted to reveal. Finally, he said, "I need someone who can run a household efficiently, cook for myself and 4 ranch hands, keep the books for the ranch, and handle supply ordering. The work steady but not overly demanding. You would have your own room in the main house, meals provided, and $30 a month. I am gone most days from dawn until evening working the ranch, so you would have considerable autonomy. Does that suit you?" It sounded like paradise compared to her current situation. "Very much so, Mr. Jennings. The position is yours if you want it. I can take you out to the ranch now so you can see the place, and if it suits you, you can start immediately." Sarah glanced at Martha, who gave her an encouraging nod. "I accept, Mr. Jennings. Thank you. Call me Adam. Formality seems unnecessary if we are going to be sharing a household." He turned to Martha. "I will pick up my supplies on the way back through town. Put them on my account." Of course. Sarah retrieved her traveling bag from upstairs, thanked Martha for her kindness, and followed Adam outside. He secured her bag to his saddle, then looked at her practical dress and boots with approval. "Can you ride?" "Not well, I am afraid." "I have ridden occasionally for pleasure, but not in some time." "We will take it slow then." He swung into the saddle with easy grace, then reached down to help her up. Sarah hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. His grip was strong and calloused from work as he pulled her up to sit behind him on the horse. She had to put her arms around his waist to steady herself, and even through his shirt she could feel the solid warmth of him. They rode northeast from town, following a well-worn trail that wound through sage-covered hills. Adam guided the horse with easy competence, occasionally pointing out landmarks so she could find her way if needed. The morning sun warmed Sarah's back, and despite the strangeness of the situation, she felt some of the tension that had gripped her for months begin to ease. The ranch came into view as they crested a rise, and Sarah caught her breath. A sturdy two-story house sat in a valley with mountains rising dramatically behind it, their peaks still touched with snow despite the August warmth. Outbuildings included a large barn, a bunkhouse, several corrals, and what looked like storage sheds. Cattle dotted the grassland beyond, and she could hear the sound of a creek running somewhere nearby. "It is beautiful," she said softly. Adam glanced back at her, and she saw something warm in his expression. "It is home. My father built the house 20 years ago when he first settled here. He and my mother are both gone now, but they loved this place. So do I." He guided the horse to the front of the house and dismounted, then helped Sarah down. Her legs felt unsteady after the ride, and she was grateful when he steadied her with a hand on her elbow until she found her balance. The inside of the house was clean but obviously lacked a woman's touch. The main room served as both kitchen and living space, with a large fireplace, a sturdy table, and serviceable furniture. Adam showed her the pantry, which was well-stocked but disorganized, the office where ranch records were kept in a state of controlled chaos, and then led her upstairs to a sunny bedroom that would be hers. "My room is at the other end of the hall," he said, clearly wanting to assure her of propriety. "The hands sleep in the bunkhouse and take their meals here. They are good men, respectful. I would not tolerate otherwise." "I understand." Sarah set her bag on the bed, looking around the simple room with its iron bedstead, washstand, and small dresser. The window looked out toward the mountains, and she knew she would never tire of that view. Adam cleared his throat. "I should be plain with you, Miss Thornton. I run a respectable household, and I expect the same from anyone living under my roof. But I am not one to pry into anyone's past. Whatever brought you west is your business unless it affects the work or puts my ranch in danger." "Does that sound fair?" Relief flooded through her. "Very fair. And I can assure you my past poses no danger to you or your ranch. I simply needed a fresh start. That is all I need to know." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Welcome to the Jennings Ranch, Sarah. I hope you will find it a good home." After he left, Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and let out a long breath. For the first time since the scandal broke, she felt like she could breathe properly. No one here knew about Charles Henderson or his lies. No one looked at her with judgment or scorn. She could simply be Sarah, a woman who kept house and earned an honest wage. She unpacked her few belongings, changed into a work dress, and went downstairs to begin learning her new domain. The kitchen was functional, with a good stove and adequate supplies. The pantry revealed Adam's sister had left things in decent order, though supplies were running low in several areas. Sarah found paper and pencil in the office and began making notes for what would be needed. She was inventorying the dry goods when she heard male voices outside. Through the window, she saw Adam talking to three men near the barn. They all looked her way with undisguised curiosity, and she steeled herself for the introductions that would inevitably come. Adam led them to the house, and the men removed their hats as they entered. "Sarah, these are three of my hands. Jack Martinez, Tom Riley, and Pete Watson. The fourth, Sam Chen, is out checking fence lines, but you will meet him at supper. Men, this is Sarah Thornton. She will be managing the household and cooking your meals, so treat her with respect." Jack Martinez, a lean man with kind eyes and sun-darkened skin, nodded politely. "Pleased to meet you, madam." Tom Riley, red-haired and freckled, grinned widely. "Welcome to the ranch, Miss Thornton. We are mighty glad to have proper cooking again." "No offense, boss, but your biscuits could double as ammunition." Adam's lips twitched with humor. "None taken, since it is the truth." Pete Watson, older than the others with gray threading his beard, simply tipped his hat respectfully. "Madam, it is a pleasure to meet you all," Sarah said. "What time do you usually take your meals?" "Breakfast at dawn, dinner at noon, supper at sundown," Adam said. "We are not particular about fancy food, just good, filling meals." "I can manage that. What time is sundown currently?" "Around 7. Gives you time to get settled today." The men filed out, leaving Sarah alone with Adam again. He looked slightly uncomfortable, as if he were not used to having a woman in the house anymore. "I should let you get oriented," he said. "If you need anything, just let me know. I will be working on the accounts in the office for the next hour or so before I head back out." Sarah spent the afternoon learning the rhythms of her new home. She inventoried supplies, planned menus for the coming week, and began preparing supper. Cooking for 5 men plus herself would require more volume than she was used to, but the principles were the same. She made beef stew from supplies in the pantry, biscuits from scratch, and strong coffee the way Martha had shown her that morning. When the men came in for supper, their faces lit up at the smell of real cooking. Sam Chen, the fourth ranch hand, proved to be a quiet man of Chinese descent with a reserved manner and observant eyes. He thanked her politely for the meal and ate with the same methodical care he seemed to approach everything. The men ate with enthusiasm, complimenting the food between bites. Adam sat at the head of the table, quieter than the others, but Sarah caught him watching her several times with an expression she could not quite read. After the meal, the hands returned to the bunkhouse while Sarah cleaned up. She was washing the last pot when Adam appeared in the kitchen doorway. "You did not have to do all this in one day," he said. "I expected you would need more time to settle in. I prefer to be useful. It helps me feel less like a stranger." She dried the pot and hung it on its hook. "I made notes about supplies we will need. When do you typically go into town?" "Every week or so. I can go in a few days if you make me a list." "I will have it ready." She dried her hands on her apron, suddenly aware that they were alone in the dimming light of the kitchen. Propriety suggested she should retire to her room, but something kept her rooted in place. Adam cleared his throat. "I want you to know you are safe here. I know a woman alone in a household of men might have concerns, but I give you my word that you will be treated with complete respect. I believe you." And surprisingly, she did. There was something fundamentally decent about Adam Jennings that shone through despite his reserved manner. "Good." He shifted his weight, looking like he wanted to say more but could not find the words. Finally, he just nodded. "Good night, Sarah." "Good night, Adam." She watched him climb the stairs, then banked the fire and made her own way to her room. Through her window, she could see stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky, more stars than she had ever seen in Philadelphia, where city lights drowned them out. She knelt by her bed out of long habit and tried to pray, though her faith had been shaken by recent events. "Please," she whispered into the darkness, Let this be the fresh start I need. Let me find peace here. The days settled into a rhythm. Sarah woke before dawn to start breakfast, sent the men off with full bellies and packed lunches, then spent her mornings cleaning and organizing the house. Afternoons were devoted to cooking, mending, and managing the household accounts. She discovered that Adam's sister had kept good records, but had fallen behind in the months before her marriage. So Sarah spent hours bringing the books current. Adam was gone most days from dawn until dusk, working the ranch alongside his hands. He was a fair employer, Sarah quickly learned, working harder than anyone and never asking his men to do anything he would not do himself. He paid well and on time, and treated everyone with the same straightforward respect. What surprised Sarah was how much she enjoyed the work. In Philadelphia, managing her parents' household had been about maintaining social standing and impressing their peers. Here, her work had direct, visible impact. The men ate better, the house ran smoothly, and she could see Adam's tension ease as domestic chaos gave way to order. 2 weeks after her arrival, Sarah was in the office updating the accounts when Adam came in, dusty from a day of work. "How are the books looking?" he asked, pouring himself water from the pitcher she kept filled. "Better. Your sister did well, but she fell behind in the final months. I have caught everything up through last week. You are doing better than you might think, though there are some expenses that could potentially be reduced." Adam pulled up a chair, genuinely interested. "Such as?" Sarah showed him her analysis of feed costs, suggesting a different supplier in Buena Vista who offered better rates. Adam listened carefully, asked intelligent questions, and ultimately agreed to try her suggestion. "You have a good head for this," he said, studying the neat columns of her handwriting. "Better than mine, certainly. I enjoy it. Numbers make sense in a way that people often do not." Adam looked at her curiously. "That sounds like experience talking." Sarah tensed, realizing she had revealed more than intended. "I suppose it is. The person you ran from, they hurt you badly, did they not?" She met his eyes, seeing only gentle concern, not prurient curiosity. "Yes, they did. I am sorry for that." Adam's voice was quiet but sincere. People can be cruel, especially when protecting themselves at others' expense. There was understanding in his tone that suggested his own experience with pain. Sarah remembered what Martha had said about his wife and child. "Martha told me about your wife," she said softly. "I am very sorry for your loss." Adam's expression shuddered slightly, but not with anger. "Thank you. It was 3 years ago, but some days it feels like yesterday. Mary was a good woman, and she deserved better than to die that way." He was quiet for a moment, then added, "The baby was a boy. We were going to name him Thomas after my father." "That is a good name." Sarah did not know what else to say in the face of such loss. "It was the hardest thing I have ever endured. For a while I did not think I could keep going, but the ranch needed me, and eventually the work helped." Grief is a strange thing. It never truly leaves, but it becomes something you can carry rather than something that crushes you. Sarah thought of her own grief for the life she had lost, though it seemed selfish to compare it to Adam's tragedy. "I think I understand that. What I lost was different, but the weight of it feels similar." "You do not have to tell me if you do not want to," Adam said, "but if you ever need to talk about it, I am willing to listen without judgment." The kindness in his offer made Sarah's throat tight. "Thank you. That means more than you might realize." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the office filled with the soft sounds of evening, crickets beginning their song and the distant lowing of cattle. Sarah realized with some surprise that she felt more at ease with Adam than she had with Charles, even after months of courtship. Adam's steady presence, his quiet competence, and his fundamental decency created a sense of safety she had not known she craved. As summer turned toward autumn, Sarah found herself looking forward to the parts of the day when Adam was in the house. He began staying in the office later, ostensibly to review the books, but often their conversations wandered to other topics. He asked about her life back east, and she shared carefully edited stories that contained truth, but omitted the painful parts. In return, he told her about growing up on the ranch, about his parents and sister, about his dreams for expanding the herd and improving the property. One evening in late September, Sarah was preparing supper when Adam came in earlier than usual. His expression was troubled and she felt immediate concern. "Is something wrong?" One of the hands came back from town with news. "There is a man in Saint Elmo asking questions about a woman matching your description. Says he is looking for his fiancée who ran away." Adam's blue eyes were steady on hers. "I am guessing that is not an accurate description of the situation." Sarah's blood went cold. Charles. Somehow Charles had tracked her here. "No, it is not accurate at all. Want to tell me the truth?" Sarah set down her spoon with shaking hands. "I was engaged to a man named Charles Henderson in Philadelphia. During our engagement, he was seeing another woman, a married woman. When her husband discovered the affair, Charles claimed it was me, not her. His family has money and influence, so society believed him. I was ruined, and my own parents would not even defend me, so I took what little money I had and came west." She looked at Adam directly, needing him to see her honesty. "I was never unfaithful. I was never inappropriate, but no one believed me, and I could not stay where everyone looked at me with scorn for something I did not do." Adam's jaw tightened. "And now this man has followed you here." "Apparently. I cannot imagine why. He destroyed my reputation and got what he wanted, which was freedom to pursue his affair without consequence. What more could he possibly want from me? Control, maybe. Or perhaps he realized his lies would eventually catch up with him and wants to silence you." Adam's voice was hard in a way she had never heard before. "What is his full name?" "Charles Henderson. His father is Richard Henderson, a banker in Philadelphia." Adam nodded slowly. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to stay here at the ranch. I am going into town tomorrow to have a conversation with Mr. Henderson. Whatever he wants, he is not going to harass you or spread his lies here." "Adam, you do not have to do this. I can leave, go further west where he will not find me. You are not leaving." The firmness in his voice surprised her. "You have done nothing wrong, and I will not let some Eastern dandy run you off with lies. This is your home now, Sarah, if you want it to be." The conviction in his words made her eyes sting with tears. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." Adam stepped closer, and she saw something intense in his expression. "Because in the past 2 months, you have become important to me. Because you work hard and you are honest and you have made this house feel like a home again. Because I am tired of watching good people get hurt by those who have power and no conscience." He paused, then added more softly, "And because I care about you, Sarah. More than is probably proper given our situation, but there it is." Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. "Adam, you do not have to say anything right now, but I want you to know that you are under my protection. As far as anyone in Saint Elmo is concerned, you are part of this household, and anyone who wants to cause you trouble will answer to me." That night, Sarah lay awake replaying Adam's words. He cared about her. The knowledge sent warmth through her chest even as fear about Charles's arrival churned in her stomach. She had not let herself acknowledge her own growing feelings for Adam, telling herself it was inappropriate and impossible. But the truth was that she had come to care deeply for this quiet, decent man who had given her shelter and a fresh start. The next morning, Adam rode into town dressed in his best shirt and jacket. looking every inch the successful rancher. He returned just before supper, his expression grim but satisfied. "Henderson is staying at the boarding house," he told Sarah as she served the evening meal. "I had a conversation with him in the presence of Marshal Tucker. Made it very clear that you were under my employment and protection, and that any harassment or spread of rumors would not be tolerated. Also pointed out that slander is taken seriously in Colorado, and that if he persisted in making false claims about your character, he would find himself facing legal consequences." "What did he say?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "At first, he tried to insist you were his fiancée and that he had come to bring you home. I corrected that misapprehension, told him you had shared the truth of the situation with me and that his lies would not work here. He got angry then, said things about you that made me want to plant my fist in his face, but Marshal Tucker intervened. I am sorry you had to endure that. Do not apologize for his actions." Adam's voice was firm. The marshal suggested that Henderson might want to return east before he found himself in real trouble, made it clear that outsiders who come to town stirring up problems tend to wear out their welcome quickly. Henderson left on this afternoon's train. Sarah felt dizzy with relief. "He is gone." "He is gone, and if he is smart, he will stay gone." Adam reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "You are safe, Sarah. I promise you that." The touch of his hand on hers sent warmth radiating up her arm. "Thank you. I do not know how to express what your protection means to me." "You do not have to thank me for doing what is right." But his hand remained on hers a moment longer before he withdrew it to begin eating. The ranch hands had witnessed the exchange with interest, but their expressions showed only support. Jack Martinez caught Sarah's eye and gave her a small, encouraging nod. Whatever doubts they might have had about her past, Adam's clear stance had apparently settled the matter in her favor. After supper, Adam asked Sarah to walk with him. They strolled toward the creek that ran through his property, the evening air crisp with the promise of autumn. The setting sun painted the mountains in shades of purple and gold, and Sarah thought she had never seen anything more beautiful. "There is something I need to say," Adam began, his hands shoved in his pockets as if to keep himself from reaching for her. "And I am not good with words, so forgive me if this comes out wrong. I am listening. These past 2 months, having you here, it has changed things for me. The house feels alive again. I look forward to coming in at the end of the day instead of dreading the emptiness. And it is not just about the cooking or the clean house, though those are appreciated. It is you, Sarah. Your kindness, your intelligence, the way you hum while you work, the way you have made friends with the horses even though you were nervous around them at first. I find myself thinking about you when I should be thinking about cattle and fences." Sarah's breath caught. "Adam, let me finish before I lose my nerve." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "I know it has not been long, and I know your past has left you wary. I know I am just a rancher without much polish or sophistication, but I also know that what I feel for you is real. I would like permission to court you properly, Sarah, to see if what I feel is something you might come to feel too." In the fading light, his blue eyes were earnest and hopeful. Sarah realized that at some point over the past 2 months, she had stopped comparing everything to her life in Philadelphia and had started building something new. This man, with his quiet strength and fundamental decency, had given her more than shelter. He had given her the space to heal and the safety to begin trusting again. "You are wrong about one thing," she said softly. "You are not just a rancher. You are one of the finest men I have ever known. You are honest and hardworking and kind, and those qualities matter far more than polish or sophistication. Does that mean, yes, I would very much like for you to court me?" she smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Though I should tell you that I already have feelings for you. I have been trying not to acknowledge them because I did not think I deserved happiness after everything that happened. But being here, being with you, has shown me that I was not the one at fault. I was just the one who paid the price." Adam's face lit up with a smile that transformed his features. "You deserve every happiness, Sarah, and I intend to do my best to provide it." He offered his arm and she took it, letting him guide her back toward the house. The physical contact felt both thrilling and comfortable, like coming home to a place she had not known she was seeking. Their courtship unfolded slowly and sweetly over the autumn months. Adam was respectful of propriety, conscious that Sarah lived in his house and that gossip could harm her reputation. But he found excuses to spend time with her, sitting in the office while she worked on the books, helping her hang laundry when his work brought him near the house, taking her into town on supply runs so she could see more of Saint Elmo and meet its residents. The town accepted her readily once it became clear she was under Adam Jennings's protection. Martha Cooper became a good friend, as did the minister's wife, Elizabeth Parker. They welcomed Sarah to their sewing circle and church socials without asking probing questions about her past, content to judge her on who she was in Saint Elmo rather than who she might have been back east. Adam was a thoughtful suitor. He brought her wildflowers he found on the range, their colors brilliant against the autumn grass. He fixed the window in her room that had stuck since her arrival. He listened when she talked about her day and shared his own thoughts and plans with an openness that made her feel valued. One October evening, they sat on the porch watching the sun set behind the mountains. Adam had pulled 2 chairs close together, and Sarah had her shawl wrapped around her shoulders against the chill. "I have been thinking," Adam said, his voice casual but his posture slightly tense. "About the future." "What about it? About what I want it to look like?" He turned to face her, his expression serious. "I want to expand the herd, improve the breeding stock. I want to build a new barn and maybe add on to the house. I want to make this ranch something substantial that can be passed down to children someday." Sarah's heart beat faster at the implication. "Those sound like good plans. They are not complete plans, though. Not yet." He reached for her hand, his calloused palm warm against hers. "Sarah, I know we have not been courting long, but I am 30 years old and I have loved before. I know what it feels like when something is right. And this, you and me, it feels right in a way I did not think I would ever experience again." "It feels right to me too," she admitted. "I did not think I would ever trust anyone again after Charles, but you have shown me what real integrity looks like, what real care looks like. Then I have a question to ask you, though I know it might be too soon." Adam slid from his chair to kneel in front of her, still holding her hand. "Sarah Jane Thornton, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? I do not have a fancy ring yet, and this is not a very romantic proposal, but I promise you that I will spend the rest of my life working to make you happy and to be worthy of your trust." Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks, but they were tears of joy. "Yes, yes, Adam, I will marry you." He stood and pulled her into his arms, holding her close as if she were something precious. Sarah rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, and felt the last pieces of her broken past settle into place. This was where she belonged. This strong, kind man and this beautiful land were her future now. Their first kiss was gentle and searching, a promise of more to come. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "I will go to town tomorrow and buy you a proper ring," Adam said. "And we can be married as soon as you would like, unless you want a long engagement." "I do not need a long engagement or a fancy wedding. I just need you." Sarah touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. but I would like to do things properly, with the community invited so that no one can question the validity of our marriage. I want it to be clear that this is real and permanent. Then we will do it right. We will talk to Reverend Parker this Sunday and plan a proper wedding. In the meantime, I should probably ask you to move into town until the wedding to preserve propriety." Sarah shook her head. "I will sleep at Martha's if you think it necessary, but I want to continue managing the household until the wedding. The men need feeding, and I do not want to shirk my responsibilities." "You would not be shirking anything. You would be my fiancé preparing for our wedding." "I can be both your fiancé and your household manager for a few more weeks." She smiled up at him. "Besides, I like the work. I like this life we have built here." Adam kissed her forehead. "Then we will make it work. And in a few weeks, you will be Sarah Jennings, and this will officially be your home." The name sent a thrill through her. Sarah Jennings. A fresh start and a new identity, freely chosen rather than forced upon her by scandal and lies. They planned the wedding for the first Saturday in November, giving them time to prepare, but not so long that waiting would be difficult. Adam rode to Buena Vista and returned with a simple gold band set with a small sapphire. "The jeweler said sapphires represent faithfulness and truth," he said as he slipped it onto her finger. "That seemed right for us." The ring fit perfectly, and Sarah admired the way it caught the light. "It is beautiful, perfect." Martha insisted on making Sarah's wedding dress, a simple but elegant design in cream-colored silk that Martha had been saving for a special occasion. Elizabeth Parker organized a social for the women of Saint Elmo to meet Sarah properly and help prepare for the wedding. The gathering was warm and welcoming, with the women sharing advice about marriage, ranching, and surviving Colorado winters. "You are getting a good man," Martha told Sarah as they worked on the dress. "Adam Jennings is as solid as they come. He will take care of you." "I know. I am very fortunate." "He is fortunate too. You have been good for him. He smiles more now than he has in the 3 years since Mary died. It is good to see him finding happiness again." The week before the wedding, a letter arrived for Sarah from Philadelphia. Her hands shook as she recognized her mother's handwriting. She almost threw it in the fire unopened, but curiosity won out. The letter was short and stiff, but it represented an olive branch. Her mother wrote that Charles Henderson had left Philadelphia suddenly after his affair became public knowledge. Apparently, the married woman's husband had confronted him publicly, and the resulting scandal had destroyed Charles's reputation. Her mother did not apologize for believing his lies, but she acknowledged that she now understood Sarah had been telling the truth. She closed by saying that Sarah's father sent his regards and that they both hoped she was well. Sarah showed the letter to Adam that evening. He read it carefully, then set it aside. "How do you feel about it?" "Vindicated, I suppose, and sad that it took Charles's complete downfall for my parents to believe me, but also grateful that I am here rather than there. Even if they had believed me from the start, I would not have found you." So in a strange way, Charles's lies led me to exactly where I needed to be. Adam pulled her close. "I am sorry your parents failed you, but I am grateful for the circumstances that brought you to Saint Elmo, to me. So am I." Sarah leaned into his embrace, feeling safe and cherished. "Will you think poorly of me if I do not write back to them right away? I am not ready to forgive yet." "I could never think poorly of you. Take whatever time you need. They are your parents, and you will know when and if you want to reconcile with them." The wedding day dawned clear and cold, with frost glittering on the grass. Sarah dressed at Martha's house, her hands trembling as the older woman helped her into the silk dress. "You look beautiful," Martha said, securing the simple veil. "Adam is going to be speechless." At the small church, most of Saint Elmo had gathered to witness the ceremony. Sarah saw the ranch hands in their best clothing, saw Elizabeth Parker beaming from the front pew, saw the warmth and acceptance on the faces of people who had become her community. Then Adam turned from where he stood at the altar, and the look on his face made her breath catch. He wore a new suit, his dark hair neatly combed, but it was the expression in his eyes that mattered. He looked at her like she was everything he had ever wanted, like she was precious beyond measure. She walked down the aisle without anyone to give her away, claiming herself and her future with each step. When she reached Adam, he took her hands in his, and she could feel the slight tremor in his fingers that matched her own nervous excitement. Reverend Parker kept the ceremony simple and heartfelt. When it came time for vows, Adam's voice was steady and strong. "I, Adam Michael Jennings, take you, Sarah Jane Thornton, to be my wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of my life. I promise to be faithful, to be honest, and to always provide you with a home and a haven. I promise to build a life with you that honors both of us and the love we share." Sarah's voice shook with emotion as she made her own vows. "I, Sarah Jane Thornton, take you, Adam Michael Jennings, to be my husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of my life. I promise to be faithful, to be honest, and to stand beside you in whatever comes. I promise to build a life with you filled with trust, respect, and joy." When Reverend Parker pronounced them husband and wife, Adam's kiss was gentle and reverent, a public claim that she was his and he was hers. The congregation erupted in applause, and Sarah found herself smiling so widely her cheeks hurt. The reception was held at the town hall, with food and music and dancing. Sarah waltzed with Adam, marveling at how well they moved together despite his claims that he was not much of a dancer. She danced with each of the ranch hands, with Marshall Tucker, and even with old Pete Watson, who blushed furiously the entire time. As the afternoon wore on, Adam pulled her aside. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Jennings?" The name sent a thrill through her. "Very ready." They rode back to the ranch in Adam's wagon, bundled together against the cold. The sun was setting as they arrived, painting the mountains in brilliant colors. Adam lifted Sarah down from the wagon, but instead of setting her on her feet, he carried her over the threshold. "Starting as I mean to go on," he said with a smile, "taking care of you and doing things properly." He set her down gently in the main room, and Sarah looked around at the house that was now officially her home. The ranch hands had made themselves scarce for the evening, leaving the newlyweds their privacy. A fire crackled in the fireplace, and someone had left flowers on the table. "They are good men," Adam said, noticing her looking at the flowers. "They are happy for us." Sarah turned to face her husband, her heart full to overflowing. "I am happy too. Happier than I ever thought possible a few months ago." Adam cupped her face in his hands. "I know we are both carrying losses from our pasts. But I want you to know that what we have, it is not second best or settling. You are not a replacement for Mary, and I hope I am not just a refuge from your scandal. What I feel for you is real and complete and entirely its own thing. I know. And you are not a refuge, Adam. You are my choice, freely made. I choose you and this life and this love, not because I am running from something, but because I am running toward something better." Their wedding night was tender and sweet, two wounded people finding healing in each other's arms. Adam was gentle and patient, making sure Sarah felt safe and cherished. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Adam's bed, now their bed, talking quietly about their dreams for the future. "I want children," Sarah said softly, "if we are blessed with them. I want to fill this house with family and love. I want that too, though I admit I am nervous about it after what happened with Mary." Sarah turned to face him, seeing the shadow of old grief in his eyes. We cannot let fear of loss prevent us from living. We will be careful and we will have faith, and we will face whatever comes together. Together. Adam kissed her forehead. I like the sound of that. As autumn turned to winter, Sarah settled fully into her role as Adam's wife and partner. She continued to manage the household and keep the ranch accounts, but now she also sat in on discussions about ranch business and offered her opinions on decisions. Adam valued her perspective and frequently asked for her input on everything from hiring decisions to expansion plans. The ranch hands treated her with respect and genuine affection. Jack Martinez taught her to ride properly, patiently working with her until she could handle a horse with confidence. Tom Riley made her laugh with his stories and jokes. Pete Watson carved her a beautiful wooden box for her sewing supplies. Sam Chen shared his mother's recipes, and Sarah learned to make dishes that added variety to their meals. Winter in the Colorado mountains was harsh but beautiful. Snow piled high around the ranch, and the work became more difficult as they struggled to keep the cattle fed and healthy. But inside the house, warmth and contentment reigned. Sarah and Adam grew closer with each passing day, learning each other's habits and preferences, building a partnership based on mutual respect and deepening love. In January, Sarah realized she was pregnant. She waited until she was certain before telling Adam, wanting to be sure this time. When she finally shared the news over breakfast one morning, Adam's face went through a series of emotions: joy, fear, wonder, and determination. "Are you happy?" she asked, needing to hear him say it. "Happy and terrified," he admitted. "But mostly happy. We are going to have a baby, Sarah." "Our baby." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, and she felt the tension in his body. "We will get through this," she promised. "We will find the best doctor, we will be careful, and we will have faith." "I cannot lose you," he said into her hair. "I cannot go through that again." "You will not. I am strong and I am healthy, and I am going to fight with everything I have to bring our child safely into this world and to stay here with you." Adam insisted they ride to Denver to consult with the best doctor available. The physician examined Sarah thoroughly and pronounced her in excellent health with no signs of the complications that had taken Mary's life. He gave them instructions and advice and made them promise to send for him when her time came, distance notwithstanding. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Sarah felt well if tired, and continued her work around the ranch with modifications as her body changed. Adam was alternately hovering and trying not to hover, clearly torn between his need to protect her and his respect for her independence. The women of Saint Elmo rallied around Sarah, sharing their own experiences and advice. Martha knitted blankets and tiny clothes. Elizabeth Parker organized a quilting bee to make a cradle quilt. Sarah felt embraced by a community that had fully accepted her as one of their own. Spring arrived with wildflowers and new calves. Sarah's belly swelled with life, and she felt the baby move with increasing strength. Adam would place his hand on her stomach in the evenings, marveling at each kick and flutter. "Boy or girl, do you think?" he asked one night. "I do not know." "What do you hope for?" "Healthy. That is all I hope for, healthy baby and healthy wife." He kissed her rounded stomach. "Though a little girl with your eyes would be wonderful, or a boy with your brains, or a girl with your strength or a boy with your kindness," Sarah countered. "Either way, they will be loved." In June, 2 weeks before her due date, Sarah's labor began. Adam sent Tom Riley racing to Denver for the doctor while he tried to keep himself calm. The doctor arrived within hours, having been waiting in Buena Vista at Adam's request for the past week. The labor was long and difficult, but Sarah was strong. She held Adam's hand through the contractions, drawing strength from his presence. When the baby finally arrived in the early hours of dawn, the doctor held up a squalling, red-faced infant. "You have a son," he announced. "A healthy, strong son." Adam's face crumpled with relief and joy. Sarah, exhausted but exultant, held out her arms for the baby. The doctor placed him on her chest, and she looked down at the tiny, perfect face of her child. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "We have been waiting for you." Adam leaned over them both, his hand gentle on the baby's dark hair. "He is perfect. You are perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for this gift." They named him Thomas Adam Jennings, honoring both the child Adam had lost and the man Adam had become. Tommy was a content baby, healthy and strong, and watching Adam with his son filled Sarah's heart to overflowing. He was a devoted father, gentle and patient, often staying up through the night when Tommy fussed so Sarah could rest. The ranch hands became honorary uncles, taking turns holding the baby and making ridiculous faces to earn his first smiles. Jack Martinez carved him a wooden horse. Tom Riley sang him Irish lullabies. Pete Watson made a cradle that rocked smoothly. Sam Chen gave him a jade amulet that his own mother had given him for protection. As Tommy grew from infant to toddler, Sarah and Adam's love deepened into something rich and unshakable. They had built a life together based on trust, respect, and genuine affection. The scandal that had driven Sarah west seemed like something from another lifetime, barely real compared to the vibrant, meaningful life she lived now. In the autumn of 1885, when Tommy was nearly 3, Sarah discovered she was pregnant again. This time, there was less fear and more joy. They knew what to expect, and Sarah's first pregnancy and delivery had gone well despite the difficulty. "Maybe a daughter this time," Adam said, his hand on her still flat stomach. "A little girl to balance out our wild boy." Tommy was indeed wild, all energy and curiosity, constantly exploring the ranch and getting into harmless mischief. He adored his father and followed Adam around whenever permitted, his chubby legs working hard to keep up with his father's long strides. The second pregnancy was easier than the first. Sarah felt well, and her body seemed to know what it was doing this time. In May of 1886, she delivered a daughter with minimal complications. The baby had Adam's blue eyes and Sarah's honey-colored hair, and she was the most beautiful thing Sarah had ever seen. They named her Grace Marie Jennings, Grace for the blessing she represented, and Marie after Adam's mother. Grace was a calm baby, content to watch the world with solemn eyes, the perfect complement to her boisterous brother. Life on the ranch settled into a joyful rhythm. The cattle operation thrived under Adam's management and Sarah's financial oversight. They expanded the herd, improved the breeding stock, and built the new barn Adam had dreamed of. The ranch hands stayed on year after year, becoming part of the family rather than just employees. Tommy grew into a bright, energetic boy who loved the ranch and everything about it. Grace was quieter but equally bright, asking thoughtful questions and noticing details others missed. Sarah taught them to read and write, while Adam taught them about ranching and the land they would someday inherit. One evening in the summer of 1888, Sarah and Adam sat on the porch watching the sun set while Tommy and Grace played in the yard. 6 years had passed since Sarah had arrived in Saint Elmo, 6 years that had transformed her life completely. "You ever think about Philadelphia?" Adam asked, his arm around her shoulders. "Sometimes, but not with regret. Everything that happened there, as painful as it was, led me here, to you, to our children, to this life. I would not change it even if I could. Your parents have been writing more frequently." It was true. After Sarah had finally responded to her mother's letter, a tentative correspondence had begun. Her parents had never fully apologized for their lack of faith in her, but they had expressed interest in meeting their grandchildren. "I have been thinking about that," Sarah admitted. "Perhaps next summer we could take the children east for a visit. Not to stay, just to let them meet my parents and see where I came from." "If that is what you want, we will make it happen. Though I admit the idea of Philadelphia makes me nervous. I am just a rancher, Sarah. I would not fit well in that world." She turned to face him, taking his hands in hers. "You are not just a rancher. You are my husband, the father of my children, and one of the finest men I have ever known. Any world that cannot see your worth is not one I care to be part of. We will visit as a family, we will hold our heads high, and if anyone treats you or us with anything less than respect, we will leave immediately." Adam smiled and pulled her close. "6 years, and you still surprise me with how fierce you can be. You have given me a life worth fighting for. A family worth protecting. That makes me fierce." They did make the trip to Philadelphia the following summer. Sarah's parents welcomed them stiffly at first, clearly uncertain how to bridge the years of silence. But Tommy's enthusiasm and Grace's sweet nature melted their reserve. By the end of the 2-week visit, Sarah's father was teaching Tommy to fish in the park, and her mother was reading stories to Grace. On their last evening, Sarah's mother pulled her aside. "I owe you an apology I should have given years ago. We failed you when you needed us most. We believed lies over our own daughter, and that was unforgivable." "I have forgiven you," Sarah said, and realized it was true. "I was angry for a long time, but that anger does not serve me anymore. You are my parents, and I want my children to know their grandparents. You have built a good life out west. Adam is nothing like Charles Henderson. He is genuine and kind, and the way he looks at you, the way he treats you and the children, it is clear he loves you deeply. He does, and I love him. The scandal that drove me away turned out to be the greatest blessing of my life because it led me to him." They returned to the ranch in late summer, all of them happy to be home. Philadelphia had been interesting to visit, but Saint Elmo was where they belonged. The mountains, the ranch, the community of people who had embraced them, this was home in a way Philadelphia never could be again. Years passed in a blur of happiness and hard work. The ranch continued to prosper. Tommy grew into a tall, strong teenager who loved ranching as much as his father did. Grace developed a talent for drawing and spent hours sketching the mountains and wildlife around their home. In 1892, Sarah delivered another son, James, who proved to be a quiet, thoughtful child who loved books and learning. Sarah's correspondence with her parents became regular, and they visited the ranch twice, growing more comfortable with Western life each time. They never fully understood what had drawn Sarah to this rough country, but they could not deny that she was happy and well-loved. Adam's sister visited frequently from Denver with her growing family, and the cousins became close friends. Saint Elmo continued to grow and prosper, evolving from a rough mining town into an established community with schools, churches, and businesses. On Sarah and Adam's 15th wedding anniversary in November of 1897, Adam gave her a beautiful hand-tooled leather journal. "For your thoughts," he said. "You have lived an extraordinary life, Sarah, overcome tremendous obstacles and built something beautiful. I thought you might want to record it for the children and grandchildren someday." Sarah opened the journal, running her fingers over the smooth pages. "What should I write about? About how you came west to escape scandal and found a home. About the rancher who gave you a fresh start and his name. About the love we built and the family we created. About all of it." That night, Sarah made the first entry in her journal, beginning with the day she had arrived in Saint Elmo, frightened and alone. She wrote about Adam's quiet kindness, about the ranch hands who had welcomed her, about the community that had accepted her. She wrote about falling in love, about building a partnership, about the joy of their children and the richness of their life together. Over the following years, she filled the journal with memories and reflections. She wrote during slow winter evenings, during quiet moments when the children were occupied, during the peaceful early mornings before the household woke. The journal became a record of a life transformed, of second chances and new beginnings. In 1905, Tommy married a local rancher's daughter, a smart, capable young woman named Catherine, who reminded Sarah of herself at that age. They built a house on the northern section of the Jennings ranch and began building their own herd with Adam's help and blessing. Grace surprised everyone by announcing she wanted to attend art school in Denver. Adam was hesitant at first, protective of his daughter, but Sarah convinced him to let her go. "She needs to follow her passion, just as I followed mine when I came west," Sarah argued. "We raised her to be strong and independent. Now we have to trust her." Grace thrived in Denver, eventually becoming a successful illustrator of children's books. She married a fellow artist, a kind man named David who supported her work and loved her deeply. They settled in Denver but visited the ranch frequently, and Grace's drawings of the ranch and mountains became some of her most celebrated work. James showed no interest in ranching, preferring books to cattle. He attended college in Colorado Springs and became a teacher, eventually returning to Saint Elmo to teach at the growing school. He married one of his fellow teachers, a woman named Alina, who shared his love of learning and literature. As Sarah and Adam grew older, they gradually turned over more of the ranch operations to Tommy and his growing family. But they remained active and involved, still riding out to check on the herd, still making decisions about ranch business, still very much the heart of the family. On a golden October evening in 1912, 30 years after Sarah had first arrived in Saint Elmo, she and Adam sat on their porch watching the sunset. Their hair was gray now, their faces lined with age, but the love between them was as strong as ever. "Any regrets?" Adam asked, taking her hand. Sarah thought about the question seriously. She thought about the life she had left behind in Philadelphia, the scandal that had driven her west, the fear and uncertainty of those early days. She thought about Charles Henderson and the lies that had destroyed her reputation, about her parents' initial betrayal and eventual reconciliation. Then she looked at the ranch spread before them, at the house where they had raised their children, at the mountains that had become as familiar as her own heartbeat. She thought about the 3 children they had raised, about the grandchildren who filled their lives with joy, about the community that had embraced her, and the man beside her who had loved her faithfully for 3 decades. "Not a single one," she said firmly. "Everything that happened, even the painful parts, brought me here. To you, to this life, to all of it. I would not change a moment." Adam raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "You gave me a reason to live again after Mary's death. You filled this house with love and laughter. You gave me 3 incredible children and a partnership I treasure more than I can say. You came west to escape scandal, and I gave you a fresh start in my name. But Sarah, you gave me so much more. You gave me a second chance at happiness, and you have made every day of the past 30 years worthwhile." Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks, but they were happy tears. "I love you, Adam Jennings. I have loved you since almost the beginning, and I will love you until my last breath. And I love you, Sarah Jennings, my wife, my partner, the love of my life." They sat together as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and gold. Inside the house, they could hear their family gathering for supper, Tommy and Catherine with their 4 children, James and Alina visiting for the weekend, and Grace and David, who had come for the anniversary celebration. Sarah thought about the young woman who had stepped off the train in Saint Elmo 30 years earlier, heartbroken and afraid, with nothing but a small bag and a desperate hope for a fresh start. That woman could never have imagined the richness of the life that awaited her, the depth of love she would find, the family she would build. She had come west to escape scandal, and Adam Jennings had given her a fresh start and his name. But together, they had created something far more precious, a love story that had endured through joy and hardship, a family that would carry their legacy forward, and a life filled with meaning, purpose, and profound happiness. As they rose to join their family for supper, Adam kept his arm around Sarah's waist, a gesture so familiar after 30 years that it felt like coming home. Sarah leaned into his embrace, grateful beyond words for the quiet rancher who had seen past her scandal to the woman beneath, who had offered her shelter, and then love, who had stood beside her through everything life had brought. The mountains stood eternal against the darkening sky, and Sarah knew that long after she and Adam were gone, their descendants would walk this land and remember the love story that had built the Jennings legacy. A woman fleeing scandal and a rancher offering a fresh start, two wounded souls who had found healing and joy in each other's arms. It was a good story, Sarah thought, as she entered the house, filled with the voices of those she loved most. It was a very good story indeed, and she was grateful to have lived every moment of it.